Hey everyone, welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be building a rocket that can do a full-on front flip. So if you haven't seen it, I had put a video up a little while back that got a lot of views, and near the end of it, this upper stage here actually does a flip to land. It comes in head first through re-entry, and then it does a flip and lands on the landing legs down here. I was going to show you kind of the basic principle behind it. We're going to build a small scale version of this using the I'm blanking out on what DLC it is. It's Making History. It's the one with the Saturn V parts. You guys probably know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to start by showing you the end product and kind of what it looks like so you can get an idea what to expect, and then we'll build it together in the VAB. So this particular vehicle here had some pretty serious flaws. For one thing, there's all these air brakes on it. I've managed to almost completely remove the air brakes up here at the top. And the other thing is this vehicle can't really survive much more than just basic LKO re-entry. I tried lunar and even interplanetary as well. It just can't survive it, even using just air brakes. It's because this upper tank just can't handle the heat. So if you're wondering what the black up top is, these are like custom little squares that I found from another mod. They're these here, heat shield tiles. Orion Space Industries, if you're wondering where they're from. It's just a whole bunch of them, and that's actually primarily what's creating the lag. But I have fixed this issue, so you guys won't have to deal with that. As far as like being able to do this in stock, you might be able to, at least smaller scale, on a smaller scale. But the problem is this front heat shield, you have to have some kind of heat shielding on the front of the vehicle. So I have a mod I'm going to show it to you in this video. I highly recommend it. It's cool. I love it. But if you don't want to do the mods, that's, just up to you. But CCAN's pretty safe. I've never had any issues. As you can see, it doesn't lag near as bad now that I removed most of the heat shield tiles. And if you want to see how big this vehicle is compared to the VAB, it doesn't even fit. So if you're wondering how I built this, I built the boosters first and then saved them in their own file with this separating, I'm blanking out on what it's called, decoupler. With this decoupler as the root node, and then I built the upper stage separate and then attached the boosters separate. Also, the other thing is I just recently hit 100 subscribers, which is quite a big deal. I wasn't ever expecting to even get past 10. I thank everyone who's subscribed. Thank you for subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider, it's free and you can always unsubscribe. So this here is the version we're going to be building. It looks a little funny with this top being black, but you can customize the color with. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend it, but I have a video on how to build the booster. This is just the booster from that video. So as far as what parts are here, these are just the Saturn V tanks. I have a computer chip that is the same diameter as the vehicle, but like in the other video I was talking about, if you don't have that, use this part in the structural panel page. It's a squad radial attachment point. Get 2 inside of the vehicle anyway, and then put computer chips on those. So the mod that I'm talking about is in thermal. It's procedural heat shields. It may be a part of a larger mod called procedural parts. There's parts too. You can have custom sized tanks and everything. It's kind of wild, but you just grab one of these heat shields. When you right click on it, so you can customize its size, its length, make it all wild and stuff. It's pretty great, but that's what this is here on the front. It's a heat shield. So cuts down on a bit of mass, and it also does a better job keeping things safe. I have survived full-on Joule re-entry, no air brake passes or anything, just straight on going into the atmosphere and stopping in one go. It can survive it. So we're going to build this from scratch. When doing the full integrated flight, I'm probably going to use this one since it's already built, but the one we're about to build is going to be a one-to-one recreation. Okay, so the first part, unlike the booster, the first part we're going to be grabbing here is the computer chip. Let's see if I can find it. I think it's this one. This is from Near Future Launch Vehicles. Again, another mod I recommend. It's really great. You don't have to, but I like it. It's got a lot of nice parts. Then we're going to go to our fuel tanks. I'm going to go over here and find the Saturn V parts. You need one of these that are small like this. One of these, which is the height of two of these. This one is the same height as two of the fourth full length. Then that is it. But you need these 3 tanks. So the way I put these on here is I put this half-sized one on first, followed by the 4th sized, like that. We're going to take the smallest one and put it on top of the computer chip. Then what you're going to do is hold down the Alt key, click on it, that duplicates it. Put that down there. Just like that, that's the configuration. Now why are we doing this versus something that makes sense? What the big reason is thrust to weight ratio 1. We need this amount of fuel specifically. And then 2, for this to work and for it to be able to do the flip, you need a header and footer tank. This one being the header tank, this one being the footer tank. You could go smaller, honestly. You just need enough to land, but it needs to be enough that the vehicle's center of mass moves based on which tank is occupied with the fuel. I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. Just kind of go with the flow, and I'll explain it a little bit better once the vehicle's built. Despite me saying put this one on top, we're going to now take it off. It'll make sense in like 2 seconds. Go to your electrical, and you can use solar panels, but I'm a little lazy. I just get these, aren't they called thermal? Why am I not able to find them? It's because I have so many mods. I need to do like a spring cleaning for my game and just start fresh because I got too many. These are pretty much the same thing as what you'll see in stock. So you just need like, I think I put 12. I have a mod that lets me go past 8-way symmetry, but you just put 8 if you don't have that this mod. Okay, put those there. Put this tank back on top. We're giving the rocket powers. Okay, so up next is the heat shield. So the heat shield, again, I'm using is from Procedural Parts. I highly recommend it, but you don't have to. I don't think that there's one that's stock that's big enough for these tanks. See, that's why I recommend it. You might be able to find a workaround. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head other than just getting like a nose cone shaped one and then putting the heat shield on that maybe. But anyway. So our tank is roughly 5 meters if I remember right, yeah. And we want the length. Well, that's too tall. Yeah, something like that. The reason why I'm doing this off of the vehicle is for some strange reason it glitches out whenever I resize. Not while editing, but when putting the booster with the upper stage and loading files in, that's when it glitches out. And I found this is how I avoid that. I want legacy textures. This looks a little ugly at first, but the one I used, I wonder if you guys can hear me clicking. I'll know when I'm editing this. This is the one I used. So the last thing we want to do, I have it as the same length, same width as the boost, as the rocket. We do not want that. What we want is, see how there's a big arrow and a little arrow? Go, I'm looking at the length, diameter, big arrow, little arrow. Go like, oh, what did I do now? Yeah, 5.1. We want like 5.2. Oops. I know it hangs off a little bit off the side there. It looks a little weird, but for some strange reason, if it's the same exact diameter, this thing can't survive re-entry. So I go a little bit past it, despite it making it look a little funny. Okay, so up next, the engines. So we need an engine skirt. I go to the structural panel. I found the best way to make an engine skirt is to use the stock parts. Let's see if I can find them. They're them tubes. You guys will be able to find them faster than I can. Structural tube. We just want the Saturn V diameter one. Looks like that. I'm going to go ahead and throw it on max length. So for the sea level engines, let's see, the sea level engines, I use the Vector engines just because they have such good gimbal. So we want 3 of those. Put them right about like that. We want to immediately right click on them, go to control, and set gimbal to 50%. You don't have to do this for a larger scale vehicle, but for these Saturn V parts, 1, they'll clip into the vacuum engines on you, and then 2, it's just too much gimbal at 100%. So now I can set the length of the skirt. Oh, I could have just set it to the second one. Okay. We just need to cover the engines. So for the vacuum engines, I'm going to go ahead and grab them. We're using the Wolfhound engines. So by default, they have to have a node to attach to, as you can see. So what I'm going to have to do is just set that there temporarily. Go to structural. And grab me the squad radial attachment point. We want 3. So put them right about there. Put them Wolfhound engines in there like so. That's really ugly. So I'm going to take away those like that. As you can see, they're hanging out a little bit. I don't want them past these sea level engines, so I'm going to grab the move tool. There we go. We're just going to drag them up to be at least somewhat level with the sea levels. That looks okay. Yeah, I'm going to go with it. So what we want to do with these Wolfhound engines is right click on them, go to control, turn off gimbal to locked, and then set the gimbal limit to 0. Because we don't want those to gimbal. So now we need to set the action groups for these engines. So go to the action groups up top, click on the sea levels, go to custom 5. What that's going to be is like if you hit number 5 on the keyboard, then this will trigger. We want to toggle the sea level engines. Then we want to go to 6 and toggle the vacuum engines. This just gives us a little bit more control over things. So the next thing we want is control. So like once we're in the vacuum of space, I go with these hot gas thrusters. They're called bipropellant, but they do use liquid fuel and oxygen. You could part clip some monopropellant tanks in and use monopropellant in stock, but again, near future launch vehicles is really great. I can't speak highly enough of it. Oops. We want 4 on the top and bottom. So up next, we need to be able to land this thing. I use a mod, Kerbal Reusability Expansion. These are the New Shepard, brain fart. New Shepard landing legs. They work great for this particular vehicle. So there we go. All we have left is aerodynamic control of the vehicle via air brakes. Like I said, I almost am able to remove the top ones. So basically, the taller the vehicle, the better as far as flippability. I do have some variants that instead of just being solely fuel tanks, they have like a payload bay. Those don't actually need the air brakes at the front to flip. But this one needs them. So we're going to go to aerodynamics. And we're going to grab the regular, if I can find them. Here they are, air brakes. We need 4. And we want them facing like this. Like so. That's all we're doing. We're not modifying them. It's place and forget. So the bottom ones, the stock air brakes overheat really bad, so we're going to use my hands down favorite mod of all time, ablative air brakes. I cannot recommend this mod enough. Essentially, they're just air brakes with ablative heat shield tiles. It is amazing, and you can have them colored black instead of that ugly yellowish brown, or I guess it's just brown. You can have them black, which is great because it matches the theme of the vehicle. So we want 12-way symmetry. Why 12? Because if you notice, they fit perfectly in between the landing legs. That's why we want 12. If you don't have 12-way symmetry, like you're using stock or you just don't have the mod, there's a real easy way to do it. I'm going to show you. It is a piece of cake exploit of the game mechanics. So what you want is you want to grab yourself a nice handy dandy part that is easy to manage. Put it on the side of the vehicle like that, just one. That's all you need is one. Hover over it, hold down Alt, click, duplicate it. And now you can place it on there like that. We want to put 2-way symmetry like that. We're making the letter T on our vehicle. Then select that. And see, now it's its whole unit. We're going to duplicate it and make 6-way symmetry. We're going to grab like our air brake or whatever it is we're wanting to put. Hover over this one and just hit. Make sure you have at least 2-way symmetry before you hover over it. But just hover over it like that. And then boom, 12. So if you don't have that mod, that's how you do it. I just have this mod because it's easy and I like it. It goes all the way up to 20. So we are almost done with this vehicle, short of docking ports. I'm still looking into a better way of doing this, but right now for signal, I do cheat. I hope you guys are okay with that. But I put dishes here on the side. Just clip them right in there inside that vehicle. Because this vehicle does require signal all the way through re-entry in order to survive. Because these air brakes have to steer it to prograde. Surface, not orbit. If you know what I'm talking about there. In order to not let the heat hit the tanks. That's the only problem with it. You have to have signal. And the only way I know to maintain signal without losing blackout, part clipping. So yes, I know it's cheating, but it's a bit of a compromise because you still eventually do lose service the further out from Kerbin you go. Technically, you could put like a crew capsule on here somewhere and get around it that way too. Okay, so the air brakes, we need to configure these. Go to your action group panel, and on 7, we're going to click the air brakes. We're going to toggle them. We're going to toggle pitch, toggle yaw, toggle roll. I don't know if the toggle pitch, yaw, and roll are a thing in stock. I don't remember. It's been so long since I've played stock that I don't know, but hopefully those are a thing. At the very least, just toggle them. Then we're going to go to our regular brakes action group and remove these ablative ones here at the bottom, just so we don't accidentally extend them. We're almost done. You can put docking ports on the side. I'm not going to do that for this one just because I already have this vehicle technically done. So one last thing, we're going to go back to our fuel tanks. This is what I would consider a necessary piece because it will burn you if you don't do it. We need the drain valve. So I'm going to do 2-way symmetry because these do apply a force to the vehicle when they're draining. So one on both sides, it cancels out and so on. We want to right click on this and we want to have liquid fuel and oxidizer as drain. Then we're going to do it again for this quarter size tank. So we're doing one for the half size, doing another for the quarter size, and that is it. Same thing for it. These header and footer tanks we don't want to drain. Back to our action groups one more time. And for this, we're going to go to group 9 and we're just going to say toggle draining for both of them. So if you're in orbit and you gravely overestimated how much fuel you're going to need, you can go ahead and just drain the vehicle before re-entering. So that way you don't get burnt trying to do the flip and all this weight in the middle messing up your day. I may or may not have learned the hard way about that. So yeah, this vehicle is pretty much done and we're good to fly it. So let me explain before I hop out and show you an example flight how this is working. So on re-entry, the assumption is your fuel is completely drained out of every tank but the header tank. The header tank is all you have in the vehicle. So that means your center of mass is up here near the heat shield tiles. So that combined with these air brakes being deployed, that's pretty much creating a parachute, and it's going to force the nose cone to face forward. So we go through re-entry, and okay, so now we want to land on our engines. So what we're going to do is move the fuel from the header tank to the footer tank. Now all of a sudden our mass is down here at the engines, and if we close the air brakes and deploy these, now all of a sudden our center of drag is at the bottom. Our center of drag is at the nose cone, and our center of mass is at the bottom of the vehicle. So essentially you got a situation of trying to balance a broomstick on the non-brushy end on the stick. It's going to be very easy to flip it. So any kind of imperfection in your flight, profile will cause it to flip, which is what happens. It just flips over, and then you just ignite the engines and land. Hopefully that makes sense. You're going to see it in action here in a bit. I'll explain a little bit before I do the flight. For this flight, I'm also going to demonstrate these draining and how that works. So we're going to set these two middle ones to half. And finally, for this half-size tank, we're going to increase the fuel priority to 1, and for this quarter-size tank, increase the fuel priority to 1, so they drain first. So now we're here at the launch pad. So how I'm going to do this is we're going to fly up to about 10 kilometers. I'm then going to drain these two center tanks by hitting action group 9. At 10 kilometers, I'm going to drain these two tanks. Then what I'm going to do is show both the header and footer tank at the same time. They'll stay until I'm ready to do the flip. I'll transfer the fuel when I'm about to flip from the header to the footer. Then what you do is you hit action group 7 again to close the footer air brakes, and then just hold down B while it flips. So we're going to go up to about 10 kilometers. I'm going to hit the 7 key on the action group panel to deploy these footer air brakes. Then I'm going to hit 9. As you can see, the fuel tank's drained now, so our center of mass is now up at the header tank. So without having to hardly do anything, this vehicle is going to just naturally flip. Now, given how close I am to the ground, I don't have a whole lot of time to work with here, but normally you'd start doing your fuel transfer from the header to the footer tank at about 1,000 meters per second after you've survived re-entry. So I'm going to go ahead and start the transfer now. We're coming in. Okay. I may not stick this landing due to how late I'm going to be starting the landing burn, but I'm going to hit 7, I'm going to hit retrograde, and then hold down B. See, vehicle flipped on its own. No way. Okay, well, look at that. I would technically say first try, but if you factor in that other vehicle I've built, this is like the 10th try. It was in the reason why there's 10 tries is I was trying to completely remove the top air brakes. It just didn't happen. For this size vehicle and stuff, you have to have at least a little bit of something. But this is how it worked. So up next is I'm going to be showcasing a full integrated stack flight of the entire system. So you'll see the booster from the previous video do its landing, you'll see this vehicle go to orbit, and then come back. That's all it's going to do, just to demonstrate the capabilities.